Laurel Lee from Florida. Ms. Lee is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for convening this important hearing, and to our witnesses for being here with us today. Lieutenant Harold, I would like to start with you and return to a comment that you made earlier. I believe you testified that you actually participated in a prior rally at this same area with President Trump in 2020. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you commented upon your observations about different resources that were available for that 2020 rally. Is that right?
That is correct.
Would you please describe for us some of the differences you saw in the level of protection and the level of resources that were afforded to President Trump in 2020 that were not part of the rally in 2024?
Well, first, it was the site. It was an airport that's located about 20 minutes south of the farm show. So it was an airport. It's completely fenced in. It's a restricted area. The night before, we picked up the motorcade and delivered the motorcade, I guess, or escorted it back to the airfield, and we parked it in the hangars there, and everything was secured. But there was no, I guess, the foot traffic. There's nobody walking through an airfield. You know, it's all fenced in. It's restricted. But it seemed like there was more resources that were present for the 2020 rally compared to the one here just 75 days ago. So when you think of like the level of security then, like what was changed now? Like why did we have less resources from the Secret Service on July 13th?
In your observation, did it appear that there were a greater number of Secret Service agents involved in the 2020 rally?
There definitely was, but it could have been because of the motorcade too. Like that, I mean, it was former President Donald J. Trump was the president then, so it seemed like there was more assets, resources, the motorcade, there was definitely more security at the airfield at the Butler airport compared to the Butler Farm Show.
And Mr. Sullivan, I'd like to return to you for a moment. You testified earlier about very extensive and very specific training you received as a Secret Service agent before being put on a protective detail. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And I believe your testimony was that in addition to specific law enforcement training, you spent years in preparation and training before you actually were on that particular service.
Yes, Ms. Lee, that's correct.
Now, other federal agents who may be brought in to supplement Secret Service in a rally such as this, do they receive that kind of training?
No.
So we've discussed earlier that state and local law enforcement would not and did not have that kind of specialized training. But to be clear, it is also true that other federal agencies don't receive that specific training, that specialized training either.
Well, every agent that goes to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center Criminal Investigative Training Program does get an introduction to protection. They do get some familiarity with it. And then before in the Secret Service, I'm no longer there, but borrowed agents from other agencies. When I was an agent, we used ATF, IRS, Customs. Now it's Homeland Security investigators. They are briefed, and they get a briefing and a familiarization with Secret Service procedures. But remember, though, the agents that are helping from HSI are not doing the advance. They're not making decisions on how to create the security plan. They're in a specific post with specific post instructions for that post.
But would it be correct to say that Secret Service agents who are specifically assigned to a protective detail have far more extensive training in that specific type of service and law enforcement activity than would your counterparts at other agencies?
That is 100% accurate, Ms. Lee, yes.
And are there things in your observation about the particular rally today and the staffing associated with it? You touched earlier on how it's imperative to include state and local law enforcement, but are there particular things about this rally that you've observed that you think might have elevated and improved the security posture?
Well, again, Ms. Lee, I wasn't there. I'm just acting on the information I've received in public knowledge. I think there was clearly mistakes made. There were decisions that were not appropriate in my opinion. And I'm really appalled at the communications plan, or lack thereof. I can't fathom how that would be acceptable, and it's absolutely not acceptable.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.